Welcome to Beat Diabetes. We're going to take some time off from our books and quotes series and just respond to a few comments. So here we go. Here is an individual who says, lately YouTube has been featuring Healthy Immune Doc, which I'm not familiar with. She promotes eating mostly plant-based foods. Well, I'm very familiar with that type of promotion and that type of approach. This person says, I tested a few of her suggestions, but let me put it this way. Mike was not happy. And of course, by Mike, she means Mike the glucose meter. We affectionately call him Mike to kind of personalize him. Mike was not happy. In other words, my glucose meter showed that these meals were not doing me any favor. And we've talked about this before, but I just wanted to say this. There are so many theories and so many ideas and people telling you do this, do that, eat this, don't eat that, eat this way, eat my way. And my philosophy has always been eat Mike's way. Eat to the meter is another way of saying that. Eat in such a way that your meter will show you're having mild glucose rises rather than severe glucose spikes. And as I was thinking about this person's comment, talking about how they watch this YouTube channel, promoting a higher carb, plant-based approach to beating diabetes, and then they tested their meter and their blood sugar with their meter and found out the numbers were getting way too high. I thought about politics. We're in a political season right now here in the U.S., and one of the interesting things that is emerged in politics over the last, 10 years or so, has been the idea of fact checkers. And whenever politics start debating or making claims, oftentimes they lie. I hate to say that, and I won't say it's always true, but oftentimes it is true. So they have come up with the idea of fact checkers who will check and say, well, he said this or she said this, but actually that's not true, and here's what is true. Of course, the problem with fact checkers is sometimes the fact checkers can be incredibly biased and have their own perspective, and so their fact checking isn't exactly accurate, and they'll lie to you as well. So you think, well, okay, we need fact checkers on the fact checkers who will fact check the politicians. The reality is what we're talking about here is bias. People have their own ideas. And that is certainly true in the area of beating diabetes and how do you eat. One of the things that I think is so ironic and almost humorous, if it wasn't for the fact that people's lives are on the line, is that everybody agrees on one thing. We should eat a healthy diet. There's nobody that says we shouldn't. Nobody says, well, just eat the junkiest junk food you can ever eat, and you'll be fine. Nobody says that. So everybody agrees. Eat a healthy diet. But where the controversy comes in is exactly what is a healthy diet. And for about the last 50 years or so, the idea of a healthy diet was you get your fat way down. Don't eat much fat at all, but eat lots of fruits and vegetables. And that was the healthy diet. And then Dr. Atkins came along and a few others saying the most healthy diet you can eat is something with low sugar and low carbs, or no sugar and low carbs. And that became a challenger to the, quote, healthy diet. You've got the plant-based people, some of them who say, and the vegans who say, if you can just avoid the animals, you're fine. And others say, if you can just avoid the plants, the carnivore folks are saying, just don't eat any plants at all. If it grew out of the ground, avoid it altogether. And that's never been my approach. But I am kind of I go along with Dr. Richard Bernstein, who says low carb, whether it's plant or animal. So I have no problem eating an avocado, no problem eating an egg, no problem eating any kind, a salad, a garden salad. I have no problem with that at all. But fact-checking. And I will say this, Mike the Meter and Charlie the CGM, that's his new name now in case you didn't know, since I'm starting to use a CGM, got one right here somewhere. Mike and Charlie are the ultimate fact checkers. So yeah, if you just pull out books at random about how to overcome diabetes, or you watch YouTube channels at random, you'll be amazed. Your head will start spinning over all the different ideas people have. I depend on Mike and Charlie. Mike and Charlie will not steer me wrong. Maybe they're not perfect, and maybe they'll be off by a few milligrams per deciliter, but they're not biased. Fact checkers are biased, or can be, and YouTube channel guys are biased too. And I admit I've got probably a few biases of my own, but Mike has no bias, and Charlie has no bias. Your glucometer, your glucose meter, your CGM, they don't come to you with a vegan perspective. They don't come to you with a carnivore perspective, not a Mediterranean perspective, not a paleo perspective. They just don't have any bias at all. They're just a little tiny computer. Don't tell Mike that or Charlie. They think they're really alive. But they're just a little mini computer that can do one thing pretty well, let you know what your glucose currently is, and in case of Charlie, he can tell you what it's been for the last day, 2 days, so forth. And they don't care whether you're eating vegan, carnivore, or somewhere in between. They don't care. They have no stake in that game. All they care about is what is your glucose. So this person says, well, I ran across the YouTube channel and they promote plant-based foods, and I tried it. Mike wasn't happy. In other words, my glucose readings were not good. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And a lot of people say, well, it doesn't even matter whether you've got high glucose or low glucose. The thing to worry about is insulin. So, Dennis, you're behind the times. We just care about insulin, baby. It's just insulin. But my friend, one of the best ways you have of finding out how much insulin surges are going on in you, assuming you're a type 2 diabetic or even a pre-diabetic, the best way you have is seeing what your glucose is. Because if your glucose is like 250 after a meal, you can bet you've got a lot of insulin going on if you're a type 2 and you've got a functional pancreas. Now, if you're a type 1, then no, you've got no insulin going on at all. So you don't have to worry about too much insulin. Your problem is too little. But for most type 2s, your big problem is too much insulin. And the way you can measure that, the poor man's way, you can go for a test and you can get your insulin tested, although most doctors get kind of grumpy when you even ask them, or at least a lot of them do from what I hear. I've never asked for one. But one of the simplest ways to find out how much insulin is going on in my body is just take a look at your glucose meter, your CGM. And if you're way up there and you were down before and you had a huge spike in your glucose, you can bet insulin is following right behind your glucose. So that's an easy thing to tell. So the ultimate fact checkers, the ones that will not steer you wrong, the ones that have no bias in this game, are Mike and Charlie. Benedict and I do have another YouTube channel besides Beat Diabetes. I'm talking about our Bible teaching channel. On this channel, we usually have 3 different types of Bible studies posted every week. On Mondays, I do a video devotional, which is a short talk about various Bible topics, normally lasting about 8 minutes. On Thursdays, you can see Benedict and me sitting around our dining room table studying the Bible together. And usually, a couple of other days in the week, we post audio podcasts. There's no video connected with these. They are strictly audio only, which means you can listen to them as you go for a walk, drive in your car, or prepare your meals. There's nothing to look at, but plenty to hear. So check out our Bible YouTube channel, which goes by my name, Dennis Pollock. A link to this channel is in the description.